She is the Bureau Chief of Bureau of Information Systems. I knew that. I just didn't want to get it wrong. Anyway, and Elaine is going to tell us information about when to file an online LSRP retention form and when to file the annual remediation fee form. Then we're going to have Tyrone Jordan, who works with Elaine, and Scott Tyrell, who's a section chief, right? A section chief in that bureau. Tyrone will be covering the registering for the online, the DEP online account, filing with the online LSRP retention form, and filing the online annual remediation fee form. And Scott will be talking about LSRP responsible entity interactions in the online annual remediation fee form. So with that, we're going to welcome Elaine. Thank you. Come on.
I know technology usually is the bane of many people's existence, so what we wanted to do here is, I know it was short notice, the crew that has built this service have been in a testing event pretty much all of December and through part of January. We did have an opening where the staff was available, so what we wanted to do is at least get something up on the web in the form of a webinar, so when people are mandated to start using DEP Online, there's at least something for them. Also, historically, since I've been involved on the IT side, I came up as a case manager and a supervisor in ISRA and BUS. I kind of have the perspective of what a lot of LSRPs are going through now. Staff has a tendency to learn about what they're supposed to do in the system, and then a couple weeks go by and then they try to actually use it, and by that time they already forgot what they were supposed to do. So really, IT stuff, real-time training works so much better than trying to give it to you in advance. So that's what we're doing here. Also, I just want to give you a little overview of my bureau and our involvement in DEP Online. Currently, we have a small section headed up by Scott Tyrell, and he has 3 staff people who are focused on developing these DEP Online services. They deal mostly with the front end of what you see up on the web, but they also recommend changes that we need to do in our NGEMS data tracking system. Usually it's about a 9-month process from actually sitting down, talking about business process, what the rules say, to coming up with a design, and then building it and testing it. These early services have been challenging because we sat down with a design, and as close to even rollout, we had changes, policy changes that affected the way the DEP Online works. So it is a little frustrating. It's a moving target. Early on, we were not asking for the number of contaminated AOCs, and what we were finding early on was LSRPs were getting hired to do just some of the site, not all of the site. There was concerns about things falling through the cracks. So we added this bit of info. There's been some talk of micromanaging it to the point where we want to line up LSRPs to contaminated AOCs. We're pushing back on that. Basically, the more honest LSRPs are, the less cumbersome our services are going to be. So both on what you're getting retained for and how much your fee is and the number of contaminated AOCs, the more honest you are there, the better off you're going to be in the long run. Our fee formula is set up on basically looking at holistically the number of contaminated AOCs and the numbers in each of those categories. If people start lowballing us, what in the long run will happen is the fees are going to be higher. So, you know, honesty is key here. We will be running reports on things submitted to DEP online. When things don't quite make sense, we will be reaching out to people. So just a word to the wise. All right. The first service we're going to do is the fee or the retention. Retention. All right. Well, I'll just give an overview of the fee first, since that's more complicated, and then we'll do the retention. So basically, 4.3 sets forth all of our fees concerning the annual remediation fees. The service that we built here is strictly for the annual remediation fees. They are not set up for individual fees that might come in with biannual certs. They're not set up for licensing annual fees, nor are they set up for permit annual fees. This is strictly the annual remediation fee service, which is covered under 4.3. Next slide. Now the first fee is due, now that we have the final rule. We have three categories basically. The people who did not opt in and were pre-existing cases prior to the May 7th, 2012 full LSRP program were put into prorated categories. Now, everyone in the prorated category was supposed to pay their first fee, which was a prorated amount, by June 20th. If you did not pay that fee, the rule has when you will be billed, and what you do is you end up getting billed for the 100% fee plus what you should have paid. So when you get a bill for kind of odd numbers, it'll say Sarah conversion, you're a part of the prorated category. And as we move, we just had one on the beginning of January. As we move closer to finishing up, there are more people who are paying actually their first fee in the smaller amount. So that part is working, but we still have a large percentage, in my mind, who still have not paid their first fee. So our next prorated billing is what, April? April. So that'll be the last one we're doing, and then we're over and done with this. I know my group will be very happy, Gary Chalk will be very happy, and I'm sure our initial notice clearinghouse people will be very happy when that's all said and done. All right, now the second group of people, we had a last-minute run on opt-ins. 1,200 total in the last couple weeks. We actually got 900 after our listserv went out that said, hey, you better get your stuff in by May 7th. So we scurried around because we were not really anticipating that, nor was my group really prepared for what the listserv said. So we reacted, and basically, in looking at the rule, taking the letter of the law, if you did file your opt-in form prior to May 7th, and we didn't have a deadline before May 7th, Kirsten, did we? Basically up to May 7th. You were given the old fee schedule of 270 days after your triggering event. So what that equated to was, because we had such a large volume and trying to get them in the system, every one of those 1,200 cases got a bill date of February 1st, 2013. So and that's the last time we gave out that schedule. Now, next slide, we're in the all else category. So the new rule says within 45 days of hiring an LSRP, you should be paying your first annual fee. Now, since that's somewhat of a moving target, we needed to put something in our system to track, so should someone not pay their fee or submit their form, our compliance assistance group will have something on their radar, and they'll be calling you up saying, where's your fee form? So in our system, we put 90 days from your triggering event, we should be seeing an annual fee form along with payment of your first check. Also, be aware that the rule says if you're going to be submitting a document, at a minimum, you should be paying your first fee prior to submitting the document. We are now batting down the hatches for our clearinghouse because we were getting way too much stuff that didn't have forms, didn't have fees, etc. You will be deemed administratively incomplete if you don't have your first fee paid by the time you give us your report. So it's in your best interest to at least go online, file, pay, and then submit your report. Otherwise, you'll be hearing from us, and it's going to take a lot longer. And, you know, clients quite often like to see a quick turnaround. So pay your fee up front if you're going to be submitting prior to a due date. All right. The other category that our online service addresses are the Spill Act exempt government entities. We thought it was a burden to a lot of municipalities who end up taking over sites as a result of foreclosures, trying to return, you know, their property and their municipalities to something productive. Now, quite often, municipalities will go in, do a PA, maybe a PASI, and at least up front will know what they're dealing with. And then it may take a while before they start remediating, getting funds, etc. So we have basically an on-off switch for the Spill Act defense government entities. We will be doing a mass mailing in the next couple of weeks to those cases that our case managers prior to the transition identified as Spill Act Defense Gov. And basically, if you're remediating in a 12-month period, you're supposed to be paying that annual fee. And then if you stop for any reason, 90 days before your anniversary date, you need to file and say, hey, we're not remediating this year, and it will turn off the billing. And pretty much you have to be a government entity to qualify. Most often it is a municipality, but there may be other government entities, and the rule defines all of that. All right. That concludes the fee segment. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm here today to introduce you to the Regulatory Services Portal through NJDEP Online. Today we will be covering two services. The first service that we cover will handle the retention or dismissal of an LSRP online. The second service that we will cover today will be the remediation fee and assessment payment, which will allow you to calculate fees for the site that you're remediating and to make payments online. So today we want to take the time out to introduce you to the service so it doesn't seem so daunting to you, and you'll be familiar with the screens as you come to them in the service. The first screen that you'll come to will have two options. You will log into www.njdeponline.com, and you'll see two options. There's an option on the left for new users, and there's an option on the right for if you're already a registered user. So today we're going to assume that you are a new user, and we'll proceed through this pathway. Next slide, please. There will be 3 steps involved. The first step will be requesting access to DEP Online. The second step will be to link your DEP Online service account to your My New Jersey account. And thirdly, we will begin using the NJDEP Online service. Thanks, Jeff. Next slide, please. This slide shows that there are two options. There's the A option or B option. The A option indicates that you already have a My New Jersey account, and so you would like to link it to your My NJDEP online account. So you would complete those first two boxes, and next slide, click on the link NJDEP online to my account. Now, next slide. If you don't have a My New Jersey account, you're going to create one now and link it to your My New Jersey DEP online account. So you would complete the information as you see on the screen, and you would click the link at the bottom of the page. Next slide, please. This is the second step where you complete your contact information. Next step. You're going to add your contact telephone number at the bottom. Next slide, please. And you can choose work number, cell phone number, or other. Click Save. Next slide, please. Click Continue. Next slide, please. And you will request your certification PIN. Next slide. Okay. The email address that you entered earlier, you will receive a certification PIN at that email address. So make sure you use a valid email address. Click Continue. And that concludes linking your My New Jersey account to your DEP online account. Next, we're going to start to configure services. Next slide, please. The reason why we want to configure services is because, as you can see in the area on the left, where this under service selection, you do not have access to any services at this point. So, right now, as you can see under My Service Selection on the left side of your page, upper left, there's a statement that says you do not have access to any services at this time, currently. What we'll be doing in this segment is we will be configuring our services so that we will be adding LSRP related services to your profile. So this service that you see, My Workspace, is very important because it holds lots of information regarding your facilities and your services in progress, and as you scroll further down the page, services that you've already submitted. So we'll begin to configure our services. Next slide, please. As you can see in the upper right side of the page, under Site Remediation, there's a box which will be unchecked initially. It contains the service LSRP related services. You want to check that box and click OK. This LSRP related services will allow you to do both retention or dismissal of an LSRP, and it will also allow you to partake in the remediation and assessment of fee payment services online. Please click Continue. Okay, next slide. And now, as you noticed before on this left side, the LSRP related services now appears. So we have a great internet connection here. So okay, next slide, please. You'll come to the messages screen, and this screen just basically states that these are the requirements for your internet browser, or if you're using Internet Explorer, you must have these versions or higher, or Mozilla Firefox, you must have these versions or higher. Please click Continue. Okay, now we would like to add a facility. Okay, with the facility, we're going to click Add a Facility. Please click next slide, please. And you will arrive at the facility search page. As you can see, it's initially blank, but what you would like to do is click the first radio button, retrieve only those facilities that match the search criteria, and next slide, please. Click Site Remediation. This will narrow down some of the options when you do your search, and if you know it, your facility ID number, your PI number, 513426 is in this instance. Please click the search button. Next slide. And One Brace Road displays. Okay. Next, you want to add the selected facilities. Next slide, please. And now, under your My Workspace, you see the One Brace Road facility has now been added to your profile. Okay. Next slide. So now you're ready to begin the service. The actual LSRP notification of retention or dismissal online. So you have all of your ingredients together, so now you can begin baking your cake, so to speak. Okay? Please click the Continue button. If you'll notice, there's a mini navigational bar on the left side of your screen, and we zoomed into this so that we can kind of highlight what's going on here. The number 1 button, as you see, is noted in blue. That denotes where you've already progressed in the service. The white area, number 2, shows where you currently are in the service, and the gray area is showing you what you have left to complete. So as you can see, it's a 7-step process. We didn't just throw you in the abyss and just tell you to fill out screen after screen. Okay, please click Continue. Next slide. Okay, that's the area that you currently are. Next slide. The area where you're yet to proceed to. Next slide. Okay, here you have several types of retention and release as a LSRP. For the most part, the first 2 options that you see, retention or release, those options are going to handle about 99% of the business that you'll do in this portal. As you can see, there are other options, retention of regulated US closures, release for regulated US closures, and child care licensing. If you click Continue, if you'll see that, if you click the Help button, you'll see that there's a definition for each retention or release service. So if you're unclear about which option you should choose, select the Help button, and that will provide you more information to guide you in your decision. Next slide. Thank you. Next, as we've stated earlier, you've chosen the Brace Road as an example. You click in the in the checkbox here on the left, and click Continue. And the active cases will display for that facility that you saw in the previous screen. You place a check in each box as denoted by the arrow. As you can see, in this case there's an IEC associated with it, and the second case there's an LSRP new case. Click Continue, please. Okay. Now you come to the contact screen. The contact screen, there are 2 tabs. You'll need to complete the information for both tabs. Please click the next screen. Okay, notice that there are 2 tabs. The service will not let you proceed without clicking both tabs. Also, as a pointer, we want to show you that there's a Save to My Favorite Contacts box on the right. You should click that box and click the Save button down below, and then click Continue. That'll save you time so that you don't have to enter that information in each time you use the service. Next slide, please. There's the information entered. Continue. And the LSRP retention details will now appear on the following screen. Anytime you see a field with an asterisk beside it, it needs to be completed. The service will not allow you to proceed without answering answering those questions. So, as you can see, the date retained for this LSRP would be 8/28/2012, August 28, 2012. They're hired to entire site versus a leasehold portion, and we are asked to complete the total number of contaminated areas of concern versus the total number of contaminated areas of concern that this LSRP is addressing. Excuse me. Please continue, and you will arrive at the certification page. The certification page has language there that states that everything that you're signing to is true, accurate, and complete. So before you sign off here with your certification pin, we ask that you click on the icon located on the right, which is circled, and view your submission for the service. Next page, please. As you can see, this is the information that we've entered earlier. There's a summary page. The service ID, this is a unique service number that you have. So if there are questions with your service, you can refer to that service ID number, 145238, and one of our staff can help you with that. As you can see, under facility profile, that's the facility that you provided information on earlier in the service. There's case information. It's a new case, LSRP new case. And for DEP staff, you'll see the LSR 090001. That's going to be your LSR gray bar. Next page, please. Further down the page, you see retention release details, the date the LSRP was retained. The LSRP was retained to the entire site, as well as the total number of contaminated areas of concerns and the total number of contaminated areas of concerns that the LSRP is addressing. Okay, click return. Now you can certify. Next. And that completes your retention and dismissal, retention for an LSRP for this service. You can skip these next two screens, that screen and the following screen. Go one more. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have the remediation fee and assessment payment service. Next page. Again, this is an LSRP related service. So you're going to click the first hyperlink. And anytime you click a hyperlink, there's information on the next screen to provide a definition of what you see on the screen. Next page. This time, we're clicking the second option, which is remediation fee and assessment payment. Click continue. There are instructions there for you. We try to keep the instructions as brief as possible. So there's a link, a PDF link, so if you need more information regarding the form, you can go there, but we try not to clutter up the instructions page. Please click continue. There's the facility that we're interested in addressing, and we click the select button and the select radio button. Please click continue. There's the active case. We click in the radio button there, continue. And we arrive at the submission name page. The submission name field, as you can see, contains a lot of information. There's the CTN, which is the case tracking number. There's the PID number, 513426 again. There's the non-initial, and there's One Brace Road. This service, as you can see, is non-initial. That means there's a bill that's already out there. The other option would be initial. When it's non-initial, this service only allows you to adjust the adjust the contaminated areas of concern and the media categories, and you can change the bill on a future cycle. So the bill is already there. But if this is initial, you can pay your bill online. Please click continue. There's the fee billing contact. This is the information where the bill will go to. So make sure that's correct. Please click continue. And as you can see, this is the remediation fee details page. This date remediation was initiated, was already populated, and then there's information on the last bill date as well as the next bill date. Scroll down, next page. Here's the chance for you to calculate the fees based on the different applicable categories. There's contaminated media. At the bottom, you'll see the annual remediation fee form and the total fee assessed. So when you click on the next page, you'll see that as an example, we put in 3 contaminated areas of concern, 1 contaminated groundwater media, 1 contaminated sediment, and we calculated the fee, and the fee from the top category was $900. The fee for the contaminated media category is $2,800 for a total of $3,700. So there was a question earlier regarding the first box here. You only want to check this box if you have regulated underground storage tanks only. This box right here under applicable category, you only want to check that box if you have regulated us only. Next page, please. You arrive at the certification page, and you can enter your PIN here in the box provided below and click Certify. You'll receive a summary page, again, detailing your service ID, which is important because that's a unique number that was assigned to you, your submission. and information regarding your facility. Next page, please. And that concludes this portion of the LSRP DEP online services. Scott Tyrell is going to talk to you about different scenarios which will help enhance your user experience and help you maximize your DEP online experience.
Thank you, Tyrone. I might hold this. Makes me feel a little bit better. Okay, as Tyrone said, if you're doing a fee service and you get a message that it's an initial fee service in the submission name, that means that you, as an LSRP or the responsible entity, can pay the initial annual remediation fee. And this slide is the end of the service. If an LSRP had certified, and you could pay, this would be the next screen that you would get to. So it's a payment summary screen, and it basically says, this is what the bill is for. In this case, it's $450. And you can pay via credit card, pay via e-check, or click Bill Me at the end. There have been almost 300 annual remediation fee services submitted that were initials so far, and LSRPs have clicked Bill Me on about 90% of them. What happens if you click Bill Me is the NJDEP system will send that bill over to Treasury, and Treasury will print the bill, and the bill will go out to the fees billing contact that the LSRP entered into the system. If there's an existing fees billing contact in the case, in the system, you will see that fees billing contact. You have the opportunity to change that in the service, and that's where the bill will go. So as I said, the LSRPs have taken advantage of that about 90% of the time, and the system sends the responsible entity a bill to the fees billing contact entered in the service. That fees billing contact is saved in our system, and a year later, when another bill goes out automatically, it will go to that same fees billing contact unless another fee form is submitted changing the fees billing contact. Yes?
That will change their anniversary, right?
Kirsten said, will that change their anniversary date? The anniversary date of the fees is based on the type of activity that you have. If you are a SARA conversion activity, you hadn't hired an LSRP by May 7th, then your anniversary dates are set up in the rule and they never change. Other anniversary dates are for new cases, for example, basically are set up in the system to be 90 days from the initiation of the case, but the anniversary date, essentially if somebody comes in early on that 90 days, the anniversary date will be whenever they file the form. And then the anniversary date doesn't change from that point. That sets the anniversary date.
Like they're going to get a bill and it's going to say it's due in 30 days. That 30 days is going to be their anniversary date. Their anniversary date is set initially,
Right, their anniversary date is set initially, right, and stays the same, as Kirsten's asking from the audience. So, yeah, we'll have to make sure everybody uses the mic in the audience. We'll go over that again at the end. So, anyway, let's see, next slide. Oh, that works. Okay. So, what Tyrone showed you was relatively simple. One person can go through and they can do everything in these services if they're an LSRP. The LSRP can fill everything out, and the LSRP can certify, and the LSRP can click Bill Me, or the LSRP can then use the client's information to pay a bill at the end. But DEP Online is set up so that when there's a facility, there can be 3 different users in the fee service, and there can be 2 different users in the LSRP retention and release services. This is to allow the responsible entity to be more involved if they need to be, and also for an LSRP to have office staff fill out services and allow the LSRP to come in and certify those services. So our three users are a preparer, the LSRP, and then an online payer. And again, they can all be the same person, or it can be 3 different people or 2 people. Okay, so in order to access services, each of the 3 users must have added the same SRP facility, the PI, to the user's My Facilities program interests in My Workspace. This is how the system knows that they're related. Can I get the next slide, Joe? Okay. In our example, a responsible entity or the LSRP's office staff prepare the service, the LSRP certifies the service, and then the responsible entity comes in and pays for the service online. The detail of that is the responsible entity office staff logs into DEP Online and completes the service up to the certification page. At that point, they have an option to send an email within the system. The system will send an email out for them. Then they exit the service by clicking My Workspace. So here they are, and the user, the non-LSRP user, has reached the end of the fee service. And they cannot certify. They're not an LSRP. They can't certify. So they would either just get out by clicking My Workspace and then call or email on their own the LSRP that they're ready to be certified, or they would click the Send Notifications button in the lower right-hand side. If they click Send Notifications, they'll see the email notification page. On the left-hand side, they have check boxes. They can check off whoever they want the email to go to. And the users that show up in here are anyone that has the PI in their facilities within DEP Online. So, you may go in and see a DEP person's name in there because we have to do testing of the services, and sometimes we add facilities. It's rare, but you may see something like that. So you would check off the person that you want to go ahead and certify it, and then click Send Notification. They would receive an email that says, this service is ready to be certified, and it would give them the service ID and some information. Okay, and that would return them back to this certification page again, and they would then click My Workspace to exit the service. Okay, so the LSRP would then receive the email, and they would log on to DEP Online and click their Certifications tab. So the Certifications tab is the third tab from the left on the upper, third tab from the right on the upper left-hand side. And then we'll find our service in the bottom gray row, and the LSRP would see the Times of Trenton service, the remediation fee assessment and payment, and they would click the blue ribbon to go ahead and start the certification process. So they'll click the blue ribbon, and then they'll click the blue ribbon. They'll see it again under Certify Electronically, and this is kind of a status of the certification, so they can see the service is not certified. So then after that, they'll click the View button. Again, like Tyrone said, so they haven't done the service. Someone else did the service. Either the responsible entity or their office staff prepared the service, so they've never seen this. So it's critical that they click the View button and review everything that is involved in this service. So again, they should check the facility profile, case information, the fees billing contact is in there. You'll also notice there's a contact, the next contact that you see is actually the person who prepared the service. So that's who would have sent the email there. And then all the remediation fee details, obviously they have to be correct, the number of contaminated AOCs, the contaminated media are very critical. And instead of a little checkbox, you see whether it's checked or not checked, and then the number of AOCs, and then the total fee assessed, and then the certification of submittal's not yet been certified because that's what they're doing. So they click the Return button, come back to the certification page, and then what they do is they enter their certification PIN and certify, and only LSRPs can certify these services. Okay, in my workspace, now, again, what'll happen is if the service can be paid at this point, they'll see the payment summary screen again, and they'll have pay via credit card, e-check, or bill me. And again, most LSRPs would just click bill me. Bill would go out to the fees billing contact again. Now, if the responsible entity wishes to pay online, they have the option of credit card and e-check. Credit cards up to $10,000. More than that, they would have to pay by e-check. So they have the option now, the LSRP, if the client wishes to pay online, the LSRP must exit at this point. If they click bill me, a bill will go out. They will not have the client will not have the opportunity to pay online. So the LSRP would exit to their workspace at this point. Now, there's no notification that the payment is ready to be made like there was for the certification, so the LSRP is going to have to contact the client and tell them that they can log in and go ahead and pay. So the LSRP would go back to their workspace. I closed up service selection, my facilities, and my services on the left-hand side. There's the little arrow buttons on the left-hand side. You can close and open the sections that way. So the service now, the status of the service is now awaiting payment. And the LSRP, if they do this, they must keep an eye on the awaiting payments. They need to go in and make sure that the client pays for the service if they do it this way, because nothing has been submitted to DEP while it's awaiting payment. There's no form submitted. And what happens if that thing is awaiting payment, and in the case the next bill date is reached, a bill will go out and the service is wasted. No form was submitted. So you need to keep an eye on the awaiting payments. So the LSRP would tell the client to go ahead and pay. And again, this is a reiteration of what I said. If a service is awaiting payment, nothing is sent to DEP unless the payment service is completed by either the LSRP or client paying via credit card, e-check, or bill me. So the user is going to pay, logs in, clicks the Payments tab. They already need to have the PI in their facilities. So this is now the payer. This is the responsible entity. They click the Payments tab, which is the fourth tab in the upper part of the screen. In bill type, they would pick NJDEP Online Bills Only, and they would click the Search button. And then the results would come very quickly at the bottom. And then this is very crowded. It won't be crowded for them. Our service is at the bottom, that Times of Trenton, and you would click the checkbox on Times of Trenton, and the user would click Continue. Okay, and then again, the payment summary screen, we keep seeing this over and over again. So the client has two options: pay via credit card, pay via e-check. I'm just going to show you, the screens are very similar for those, so I'm just going to run through them quickly. So if they pay via credit card, this is what the credit card looks like. This is actually going to change in a couple of months. They're going to a different payment service, a standardized payment service. It'll be more like, Amazon or what have you, than something that's custom like this. But they would just fill out their credit card information and click Continue. If they pay by e-check, this is what the page looks like. You have to state that your account is inside the U.S. or not outside the U.S., and then you get the bank routing number, account type, that type of thing when you use an e-check. So you would click Continue. If you use credit card or e-check, you would next get the payment summary screen, and also Bill Me too. You would have payment type of credit card, e-check, or Bill Me, and the Bill Me would show the contact information of where the bill is going to be going to. So, next slide. Okay. So then after that, you would get a payment confirmations page, and it'll tell you whether your transaction was a success, and that's the way that you or your client knows that everything went through. And at that point, you can just go back to your workspace, either by clicking My Workspace on the left or going to your workspace on the bottom. I think I also have a couple Bill Me slides. Again, the LSRPs should do Bill Me after they finish the service and not through the payments tab like we're showing here. But if for some reason the client did want to pay yet ended up clicking Bill Me, they would see the usual Bill Me pages. They get a message that says if they continue past this page, they're not going to be able to pay by e-check or credit card. They get a billing contact pre-populated. And then they see the same pages that the other e-check and credit card options show them. So we'll go on. Okay. So that's the interaction between a preparer, the LSRP, and the client paying. Again, I don't think many people use that option, but it's available. Clients can be very involved. They can prepare services and let LSRPs certify them if they choose. And again, they have the option to go in and pay. Everybody needs to have their own account, and they need to have the facility added to their workspace to utilize that. I just wanted to say, too, that so far we've had almost 300 fee services submitted. We've had over 500 LSRP retention and release services submitted. We've had over 1,000 RPS services submitted. So there are now hundreds of LSRPs that are actively using DEP Online. So there are resources within the LSRP community itself. If you want to ask your friends, if you have questions, they may have a unique perspective. You can contact us. Is our phone number 609-292-9418. You can ask for a person answering questions on DEP Online. So I think that's it. The only thing we didn't show was LSRP release or dismissal, and it's very similar to the retention service. It just has a release by contact. You just say who released you. Of course, it could be yourself. And then whether you're released from a single case or the entire facility, which is very important. So I guess, Tessie, do you want to go ahead?
Well, the question is, does anybody in the room have some questions? Of course we do. Hold on.
Question for Tyrell.
Tyrone.
Tyrone, I'm sorry. In the LSRP retention, one of the fields you had was number of AOCs the LSRP is responsible for and total number of AOCs on the property. Now this worked for you because the LSRP example you gave was a site-wide application. If the LSRP is addressing AOC only, he has no way of knowing, or may not have any way of knowing, how many other AOCs might be on the property. How does he respond to that?
That's a good question. I don't know if that's for you, though. Elaine, did you hear that question? Sorry, Elaine, did you hear that question? Question is... Yes. LSRP is hired for one AOC and is asked the question, how many AOCs are there on the whole site? And may not know. So how do we answer that question?
Well, if it's an existing case and there's history that goes back, one of the things, either the client needs to know the number of AOCs or the LSRPs. Now, if it's a new case, quite often you don't really know. So what you need to report on is the ones that you know about at the time. As you go out there and start mucking around, as you discover more contaminated AOCs, you're supposed to update that every year. Now, if you're doing a partial, you need to tell your client that there needs to be some kind of coordination, and each LSRP could potentially be held accountable for that. So, the clients who like to divvy it up, someone needs to be watching the entire case. And, we've already had some actions by the board where an LSRP said, I was hired just to do this. That other soil stuff was not my job. And that LSRP was held accountable for that soil pile because overall, they need to be informing their client on what's acceptable or not. So that was the whole intent of doing an LSRP. Just like in-house, when we had multiple case managers, there needed to be some coordination, and we tried to have one prominent case manager that watched the entire site. So, yes, Harry.
So what you're telling us is if it's a new site, and let's say, for example, it's a manufacturing facility, we're responsible for removing a 15,000-gallon underground tank. That's the only area of concern we know about. So the number of area concerns we're responsible for is 1. The total number of area concerns on the property is 1 because there is no prior history of the site. That's how we should fill out that field.
Yes, and provided it's not a Ezra trigger later on, if you're hired to deal with the facility, which is that underground storage tank, then yes, that is true.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if it said number of contaminated areas of concern? What if there's groundwater or surface water are part of it? How does that feed into the fee, calculation of the fee?
All right, the way we're dealing with the contaminated AOCs and the media is the contaminated AOCs are counted up if particular. Should I wait for the slide?
Might as well.
Okay.
Figure out where we are on this. It's further along because we know where. Yeah,
All right.
I guess the answer then.
they're coming through it. Just waiting for the slide to come up. We have to keep
Keep
an eye on the
going.
time. There's only about a half hour left. I saw it. No, I don't see it. It was like right there, 2 slides away.
Actually, they're easier, if you click this, sometimes it's easier to find your way.
Yeah.
That one?
Great.
All right, so these questions here really don't have anything to do so much with the service. You probably have the same questions when you're filling out your paper form. And some of our back to basics and regulation talks should address it. Hopefully I am along the same lines as those training events. But the contaminated AOCs, once you impact a media, until you deal with the media, it's still considered a contaminated AOC. So you will never, ever have a situation where you only have groundwater left and you're not going to have at least one contaminated AOC. It's just not going to happen.
I manage a BDA, and I have several LSRPs that are managing different sites. Should they be the ones filling out this form, or I have to set up as a municipality and try and address these issues? And I have a second question. We didn't really go over what municipalities do when you enter here and have a tabled a fee schedule. I need to know how to set up and make sure that I don't continue to get these letters and bills.
Okay. For BDAs, the rule sets up something that allows some consolidation over your BDA. And these are a little more problematic because we need to also have set up internally which one of the cases we're going to ID as billable. And I'm not too sure if we've done that across the board for BDAs because our data quality on our BDAs aren't the best, and some of that has to deal with our own internal staff and their ability to track things in NGEMS. So BDAs, basically, you look at the entire BDA area and you count up all the contaminated AOCs across your entire BDA. Now, if you have 5 AOCs, different sites that have contaminated groundwater, you pay one groundwater media fee. So it's a consolidation. So basically your entire BDA is being treated like a case. So I don't know if you want to tell me what municipality you're in.
City of Orange and then West Orange Township. So what's happening is I'm getting separate invoices for some of the sites in the BDA, which is fine. They're not the responsible party, and an LSRP has been assigned to the case. So sometimes I send them back to the LSRP, and they've supposedly dealt with them, but I'm more concerned with the ones that are outside the BDA that I continue. I mean, DEP has identified me as the person that's the responsible party, so I'm trying to get me off the list and the city in the loop.
Okay. That is really an issue more with your case manager. So I will go back and look in the system to see who your case manager is and work with them. Okay, then you might get better service. Ooh. I might have a few anger issues here. I don't know, but I've been trying to get some of this data in quality form so you guys can do your job.
I will say part of it's my fault because I get these and I don't know what to do with them. Again, outside of the BDA is the one I'm most concerned with.
All right, if it's outside of the BDA, then basically it should be getting billed.
But it's still a municipality getting the invoice.
Correct.
For a site that's not currently being tested, monitored, or anything else. It's just an idle site.
It's an idle site.
Right.
Okay, that you are not managing. And do we know who the responsible party is?
I would say most times no.
Okay. Because what we try to do for the idle sites is try to figure out who the responsible party is. And usually what we do is we go to your records first, the municipality, to figure out who the property owner is. And, you know, if it's not the discharger, then we default down to the property owner because ultimately that's the property that's contaminated. So if you do have tax records which indicates who the last property owner is, you should notify, and I'm not too sure, Kirsten, if this should be the name address change form. It could be just a cover letter indicating you are the municipality, this is what your tax records show, you are not managing this under the BDA, and therefore you should not be the point contact because your municipality is not doing the cleanup.
Elaine, why don't you go over again what there was the one slide about the non-spill act responsible municipality. You know, the whole point of this is that if they meet that status, a box gets checked and they don't get billed if there's nothing going on at the site, right?
Correct. Well, there's two things that happen in BDA areas. One of them is you could be doing the remediation and you're spill act exempt gov. Therefore, when there's no remediation happening, you don't pay. But if there is, you pay. So there's that going on. And also consolidation of BDAs. And BDAs are formalized. You know, there's that application process. There's the identification of the blocks and lots that are going to be remediated. You know, it's fairly high-level stuff that gets pre-approved even before you can start doing the different kind of annual remediation fee. So you have to be a BDA. You've had to have gone through our system, and we would have had to have designated you as a BDA.
Okay, let's take one from the web. If the LSRP certifies the form and selects Bill Me Later, will the DEP notify the LSRP once the invoice has been issued and paid?
Do you want me to take
Shaking
that
their
one?
heads.
Okay,
No.
I'm glad he's going to answer this one.
Yes. So basically the question is, so let me go through this service a little bit. What happens is once the LSRP, say for example, clicks Bill Me Later, that means the form is being submitted, okay? If it's an initial, a bill has never been issued before, based on what the LSRP set up in the fee service, two things will happen. One is when the online form hits our system, an acknowledgement letter will go out to the responsible entity and copy the LSRP so that the LSRP will know that we got the form. So that's one thing. But the question is, once the invoice has been issued, it's a full day before Treasury gets the invoice at that point to print it. And then it's several days before that invoice actually goes out on the street. Treasury uses a very old electronic billing system, and there is really no notification. However, what you could do is run a data miner report that's out there about what bills are owed and what bills are paid. And I think is it the comprehensive report?
No, it's our financial obligation report, which we are modifying. We should be posting it shortly. That could tell LSRP or an RP outstanding fees, both in the direct billing oversight, RFS, as well as the annual fee.
So you'll want to keep tabs on your responsible entity and also that report to determine whether they actually did pay the bill, that went out. And by the acknowledgement letter, other than the bill actually getting lost in the mail, you can pretty much guarantee that your fees billing contact will get that bill in their hands.
All right. Does the Bill Me tab only send an electronic bill to the billing party, or will it send a paper copy?
Bill Me is only a paper copy. It is not an electronic copy. Like I said, when you click Bill Me, the system sends a message to Treasury, and Treasury prints a bill and sends it to the fees billing contact that was put in the service.
Okay, the next one is, no, wait a minute. I want to go back to that one. Why did the DEP presume LSRPs were not being honest? This is not appropriate. Maybe the better word would be accurate.
Okay.
When you were talking about, in the beginning, the lead-in.
Okay, the lead-in was the fact that there was numerous data in the system to indicate that we had a fairly large site cleanup of over 21 contaminated AOCs, and when the fee came in, it was a 0 to 1 category. Now, it could be inaccuracy, it could be a lot of things.
It could be
It's
they don't know
assumption.
exactly what they're required to do, and that's why we're here to make that clear.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And no aspersions meant to be cast on you. Okay. Next one. So the responsible party does not have to confirm retention of an LSRP.
So in the service, it's an LSRP-only service, and we are counting on the LSRP to have authorization from their client to do the service. We are staying pretty much hands-off on that. We state in the service that the authorization should be kept on file. Assume that can be put in a contract that's signed, between the two, or a written agreement about how they're going to be using the service. To keep the responsible entity in the loop, whenever an LSRP submits a service, we are going to be sending an acknowledgement letter by email to the responsible entity, and we're also keeping tabs of if the email doesn't go through, sometimes they bounce, and we try to make sure that the responsible entity is kept on the loop whenever there's a service that's done on behalf of them by an LSRP.
And can I just address briefly, there was quite a bit of discussion with management concerning should we have dual signatures, just like the forms, And what we have done is, we've been doing DEP online services now for probably 10, 15 years. And the services that are not heavily used are the ones where two dual signatures have to happen, because quite often one will go do it and then the other one will take their time or forget about it. And those systems, every single one of them have failed miserably. So in looking at the rule and looking at some case law, you know, there's enough information that could substantiate the fact that we don't have dual signatures, but there's still dual commitment. So that's why we went with the single signature. And a lot of our services are LSRP driven, because you will be doing the routine submittals over and over again. So it's not like your client has to go in and once in a blue moon go and do a DEP online service. This is one of the things that the LSRPs can do for their clients.
Okay, anybody else in the room? They're all still awake. Okay, we have one in the back.
Although I'm too far back to read what's on the screen, I believe one of the questions was about knowing when the bill was paid. And I guess if you pay online, the initial payment, if you pay it at that time, the letter will state so. If you don't, you receive a bill later. And then I think that the question was, after that 60 days, how does that LSRP know the bill was paid? So I'm not sure if you addressed that particular question or not.
The report again.
There is a report that is available that indicates what fees are outstanding. So,
and then also in the service, as an LSRP or anyone goes through the fee service, if they have, picked the right case, when they get to the submission name screen, it pre-populates with information about what the user has picked. And in the middle of that, it says either initial, which means that no payment has been made and no bill has gone out, or it says non-initial, and non-initial means either a payment has been made or a bill has already gone out. And the rules say, basically the responsible entity has the opportunity to pay that initial bill, but after that initial bill, every other bill will be invoiced by the department. So again, if you see that it says initial when you go through that, they'll have the opportunity to pay that initial bill. And if it's not initial, that means a bill's on the street or it's already something's been paid.
and just so everyone knows, we have our own system here that's housed at DEP, and Treasury has their own, so it's not like we have ownership of both systems. So it is hard for us to do the second part in the notification, because payment is made to Treasury, and that's where the data resides. That's where the things get posted. So the dual system kind of adds a certain complexity to this overall feedback loop. So the best we can do is to provide a report that can be checked.
Good. How is the LSRP, and air quotes, authorized by the client?
Well, like we said, before, I think we addressed that issue. We expect the LSRP to work that out with their client, keep something on file that it's either in their initial contracts or a written agreement after the fact that they can file these services, and we'll keep the responsible entity in the loop by emailing them an acknowledgement letter with the details of what was just submitted.
Okay, and I'm glad that Jeff Valvik can hear the audio now. Hi, Jeff. Okay, where does the certification PIN for the fee payment get generated? Where does it come from?
The PIN number gets auto-generated within DEP Online, and the email address, it comes in an email, and the email is portalcomments@dep.state.nj.us, and the user can generate a new one from their user profile anytime they should forget or lose it. In the future, DEP Online Services is going to be instituting a different PIN system where the user can make up their own PIN. So that'll be coming within a few months.
Also, just the FYI, some of our mail that goes out goes into people's spam folders. So if you don't get a response back shortly, because it should be fairly shortly, check your spam folder and you may find it there.
Okay, this next one's a good question. How are the annual permit fees included in this payment system or process?
The permit fees, the remedial action permit fees, I assume this is, are not included in this system. Yet at this point. They are invoiced, a paper bill goes out, and the paper bill needs to be paid.
So
So
when
right
some-
now, they're not, but we're working toward electronic billing of everything.
Okay, that's good. So if they're submitting a permit proposal or an application, they submit a fee with that?
That is correct.
And then they'll get a paper bill annually after that?
That's correct.
And then hopefully in the future, we move on electronically?
Right.
Okay. Will all subsequent annual fees be invoiced, or are we expected to pay online?
All subsequent annual fees will be invoiced, and we're working toward a system where the invoice could be paid online. But the rules say that the department will invoice all subsequent annual fees.
Okay. So, Jeff, it's a little unclear what we...
Jeff, he
You know
means,
what he means?
the part of the point of this was that in about a week we were making these two forms mandatory, no paper anymore. And so it is optional for about another week. And at that point we would like to see everybody coming in to use the portal. And please contact us at the phone number that we gave. If you have issues, you can also email at portalcomments@dep.state.nj.us. If you have questions also, and the whole online group in SRP and the department will get involved in helping you at that point.
So what are you going to do with forms that are submitted after that date? You're going to get mailed back.
See, Scott's a lot nicer than a few of us who deal with paper on a daily basis. It is mandatory, so...
Keep in mind that
At one date?
hundreds of
Already?
fee and retention and release forms have already
January
been
18th.
submitted online.
January 18th, mandatory. It will get mailed back to you, and they should be billed for the stamp, right? We have to mail it back? What do you think? I think Tony Farrell liked that one.
All right, Gary, this is where you speak up.
You want to speak up?
You say, there's no way I'm billing for the stamp.
No way, I can't do that. All right.
We have
so
9 minutes, right?
We have about 10 minutes left, and we'll see what we can get through. Can you confirm that RPs are no longer needed to sign the notification of retention forms? Okay.
All right, Kirsten, who runs our clearinghouse, if a form is not signed, a paper form is not signed by the RP, it is not considered to be administratively complete, or by the LSRP. Therefore, it is not going to be processed. DEP Online, we ask for one certification.
Right, and they went through how to do that. Only 3 more days for hard copies for that, or else you get it back in the mail. If you have already submitted your LSRP retention form in paper format on May 7th, 2012, has this information been populated into NJDEP Online, or will this have to be done now to pay an annual fee?
Any retention forms that were already submitted should be in the system, unless they were, we never received them. If we received them, they're in DEP Online now.
So clearly that begs the question. Let's say they think one was submitted, or they did submit it, and they don't see the results of that when they do data miner reports. What do they do?
They should contact Kirsten Pointenhan
What?
and say, where's my form?
What phone number do you want them? Blah, blah, blah. Come on.
On May 7th, we made it the cutoff noon time. If we got the form late in the afternoon, we didn't consider them opted in. So we have occasionally got phone calls from parties saying it was delivered May 7th. We found that it did in fact come in with like a receipt, and we allowed them to have the 270 days.
Tell them the phone number, please.
292-2943.
Okay.
It's the Bureau of Case Assignment and Initial Notice.
All right, let's see if we can get through these. We have a few more. So, the ISRA acknowledgement letter sent from the department regarding the timing of the submittal of the PASI report and also the timing of the first annual remediation reporting fee form and fee, 270 days from the submittal of the GIN or upon submittal of the PA. Did somebody copy this right out of the rule? I did not find a 45-day timeline from the retention of the LSRP for fee payment in the document. It's my understanding of the policy and the practice within ISRA in the subject of reporting and fees that there's a 270-day clock from the trigger, ISRA trigger. We're going to have to summarize this. My understanding is that the entire investigation reporting could be completed within that time frame. Then the fees could be sent in at the time of reporting.
All right, you're going to have to read the rule again.
Ooh.
In section 4.3, when it says when you pay, it says with the first 3 bullets deal with your key submittals, and then the last one is within 45 days of hiring your LSRP. It's in there. Whatever is earliest. It's the last bullet out of 4, but it's in there, and 270 days is over, done, kaput, as of May 7th, 2012.
All right. Okay, does the RP have any role in the submittal of an LSRP retention form? In the past, they have had to certify the retention. Also, do you need to wait for a previous LSRP to fill out the dismissal form before a newly hired LSRP can fill out the retention form? That's a good question.
More than one LSRP can be retained at a PI or at a case at any one time. So, in other words, if someone else is dismissed, we wouldn't know it when we received your retention form. So they're going to need to make sure and follow up and file their dismissal because we wouldn't know whether you were just an additional LSRP at that PI or case.
And the first part of the question, does the RP have any role in the submittal of an LSRP retention form?
Right. Again, we are going to send the RP an acknowledgement letter when the LSRP retention form is received.
Okay.
They're going to get that by email, the email that gets put in the service.
Okay.
Can the RP dismiss the LSRP without the LSRP signature?
Kirsten said, can the RP dismiss the LSRP? The RPs are still going to have to contact us if the LSRP is non-responsive on dismissing themselves. So there really wasn't a good way for us to do that online. Right. Yes, they'll have to contact, the RPs will contact Kirsten again and get the LSRP dismissed.
Okay. Other than the initial online filing, are the annual fees also done online, or do the RPs have to wait for the follow-up bill?
All right. There is a service that someday SRP would like to leverage, and that's just a generic pay online. So until that day where we figure out and get all the software in order, the only time that you can pay online for SRP bills is for that initial filing of an annual remediation fee service. The problem we had with the generic was all the money was going into one account. It was AIR's account. So we are dealing with our credit card vendors, Treasury, and we're trying to line it all up. We do not want all of SRP's payments to go to an account that isn't ours. So we're hoping in the next 3 to 6 months to get that all taken care of, straightened out. And when we do, there will be a listserv, and we will tell you exactly how to do it, where to go, and we could even do a little seminar like this one. But right now, where the money goes is not where SRP wants it to go, so we have not turned on the service. Therefore, no permit fees can be paid online, no license fees can be paid online, no individual submittal fees for biannual certs, permit applications, none of that can be done online.
Yet.
The only thing you can do is pay the first annual remediation fee for your case.
Okay.
Can I interject there
yes.
too? Like, I think one thing that we missed in the presentation was filing the form. We talk about you can only pay for the initial, but whenever the fee billing contact, the contaminated media, or the number of AOCs change, the LSRP needs to get in there and file the form again, and you're setting up for the next annual billing, that invoice that will go out to be correct. You know, either the number of AOCs go up or they go down, the contaminated media changes, or the fees billing contact. Get in there and file the form. Again, you won't be given the option to pay, but you'll set it up for the next invoice.
Okay, the question is, what's a BDA? That's a brownfield development area, and it's usually a group of contaminated sites that are the department has recognized to have that status, and they're handled as one site. Okay, the next question regarding annual fees. Gary should be up here. We should make him work for once. He's not smiling. He's looking grouchy. Regarding annual fees, okay, when the project is completed, an RAO is issued, and the fees were paid up front, does the LSRP or the RP need to do anything relative to the fee form so a new bill is not generated in the future?
Not typically. If the REO comes in closely before the anniversary date for the bill, and our inspectors and reviewers are not done their inspection and possibly review, a bill could go out. It would be up to Gary to decide whether we would hold them accountable for that bill or not.
Okay, and then let's say they feel they were done, because we keep telling LSRPs that they're done when they submit the RAO. What should they do if they get a bill?
I would think Gary would likely say they don't know it.
So what should they do? Just not pay it or contact them?
Well, they would have to contact Gary's group because the bill would have to be canceled. Am I talking
Is that
out of
right,
line?
Gary? Come on.
If you are paying your annual fee, you continue to pay annual fees until you issue an RAO for that particular AOC. You're not allowed to issue an RAO for that AOC until your fees are paid. As Elaine said earlier and Scott said, you can check online financial obligations report, tells you if you owe any money. You should check that. Is there money owed? Pay your fee, then you can issue an RAO. The rules specifically say you have to submit within 90 days before your anniversary date. You go onto this portal and you can change the number of AOCs, medias. That will allow the system to generate a correct bill for you in subsequent years. If you issue an RAO, if your anniversary date is tomorrow and case assignment gets an RAO today, you're pushing the envelope a little bit. We could hold you to the 90 days. If they don't get to it for 30 days, in their review it sits in a pile because of a backlog, a bill will go out for next year because in NGEMS we did not say RAO. We didn't complete the case in NGEMS. So the system says, hey, it's still an active case. I'm going to bill it. So courtesy would be we could hold you to 90 days in the rule. I think we're going to give you a little bit more leeway than that. If you're going to submit an RAO for a case and case assignment gets to it, they do actions in the system to shut off billing, and billing would stop. If you have 11 areas of concern and you drop down one area of concern, your fee would be reduced remarkably. So it would behoove you to get in the system, update it via that portal, change your areas of concern, your medias. It controls your fees. You need to submit an REO, via case assignment to get your categories reduced.
All right. So we're going to take one last question, and then we have to shut down the web guys may be shut down automatically in a moment. If we have responsible parties that are not savvy or comfortable with all the electronic stuff, can they still do paper, mail, and hard checks in the future?
So the way that would be handled is no, the LSRP. But for the RPs, the nice thing about this is again, this is an LSRP certified service. So the LSRP goes in and they certify to the number of contaminated AOCs in the media, and then they would click Bill Me, and a paper bill would go out to the client, and the client can pay with a paper check. The client doesn't have to be involved in DEP Online at this stage. So there is that option, that Bill Me option, to send them a paper check that they can then pay.
Okay, so for the remaining questions we didn't get to, we will respond to you on this. We'll get people to respond here, but I want to thank these guys for doing this. They did it on a very short notice, and they did a great job. I'm hoping in the future that we'll be able to incorporate this routinely into our training that we do, because it's not a big technical issue, but it's a really important issue that we all start learning it and getting it right. But I want to thank the guys that put this together. I think they did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.